بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد.
Imagine a woman standing inside a room filled with mirrors, but these are not ordinary mirrors. One mirror makes her look smaller than she really is. Another magnifies every flaw while hiding every beautiful thing within her. A third carries the voices of people who rejected her, criticized her, compared her, or made her feel that she was always too much or never enough. For years, she keeps changing herself. She becomes quieter so people will not call her difficult. She gives more so no one will accuse her of being selfish. She hides her dreams so others will not feel threatened. She accepts less than she deserves because she is afraid of being left alone. But no matter how much she changes, the reflection never becomes beautiful. Then, one night, every light in the room suddenly goes out. The woman panics. She thinks she has lost everything. She cannot see the mirrors. She cannot see herself. She cannot see the door, but in that darkness, something strange happens. For the first time, she stops looking at the reflections. For the first time, she hears her own heart, and slowly she understands that she was never as broken as the mirrors made her believe. The mirrors were distorted. The voices were distorted. The relationships were distorted. Her understanding of her own worth had been distorted. Perhaps this is why Allah sometimes allows the lights around a woman to disappear. The attention fades. Certain people leave. The future becomes unclear. The door she wanted closes. The support she depended upon suddenly feels distant. She thinks she is being buried, but Allah may be removing the false reflections that kept her from recognizing who she truly was. My dear sister, elevation does not always begin with celebration. Sometimes it begins with confusion. Sometimes it begins with the strange feeling that your old life no longer fits you. Sometimes it begins when the people you trusted misunderstand you, the plans you loved collapse, and the version of you that survived by pleasing everyone can no longer continue. But understand this carefully. A difficult season is not proof that you are better than other women. Pain is not a certificate of superiority. Elevation is not about standing above people. True elevation is being brought closer to Allah. It is becoming more sincere, more grounded, more courageous, more merciful, and less controlled by the approval of creation. So ask yourself one honest question. What if the test you are calling rejection is actually separation from everything that taught you to reject yourself? What if Allah is not removing your worth? What if He is removing the mirrors that never knew how to reflect it? One, Allah may allow you to be misread by the people you tried hardest to love. One of the strangest tests a sincere woman can face is being misunderstood by the very people she tried hardest to support. You were present when they were hurting. You listened when no one else had patience. You forgave what others would have walked away from. You remembered their needs, protected their secrets, excused their weaknesses, and carried burdens they never even realized you were carrying. Yet when the story was told, you became the difficult one. You became the cold one. You became the selfish one. People who benefited from your kindness may begin speaking as though you never gave them anything. People who knew your heart may judge you by one moment of exhaustion. People who watched you sacrifice silently may accuse you when you finally establish a boundary. And you may sit alone asking, Allah, why did you allow them to misunderstand me when you know how sincerely I tried? My dear sister, sometimes being misunderstood is not merely a social wound. It is a spiritual separation. Allah may allow people to misread you because you have spent too much of your life needing human beings to confirm that your heart is good. You know what you did. Allah knows why you did it. But somewhere inside you, that knowledge stopped being enough. You needed them to say you were kind. You needed them to admit that you tried. You needed them to defend your name. You needed an apology before your heart could rest. Without realizing it, you placed the key to your peace inside someone else's hand. So the test comes. You explain yourself, but they do not understand. You provide evidence, but they have already chosen their version. You speak gently, but your gentleness is used against you. You remain silent, and your silence is interpreted as guilt. Eventually, you reach the end of explanation, and that ending can become the beginning of freedom. There comes a moment when a woman must stop entering every courtroom where people have placed her name on trial. Not every accusation deserves your emotional energy. Not every misunderstanding requires a speech. Not every person has earned access to the deepest reasons behind your decisions. You are allowed to walk away from conversations designed only to exhaust you. You are allowed to protect your dignity without becoming cruel. You are allowed to know that Allah witnessed the nights when you cried, the intentions you concealed, and the sacrifices no one applauded. Look at Mary, the mother of Jesus. She carried a test that people could easily misunderstand. She returned to her community carrying something miraculous, but they could only see what appeared suspicious. They questioned her honor. They attacked the part of her character she had protected throughout her life. Imagine the loneliness of knowing that Allah understands you while the people around you are forming the worst possible conclusion. Yet Allah did not require her to win every argument. He defended the truth in a way she could never have engineered herself. There is a lesson in that for every woman who has been misrepresented. Your responsibility is not to control every tongue. Your responsibility is to protect your own tongue, your own conduct, and your own connection with Allah. Sometimes Allah elevates a woman by teaching her that a clean heart does not always produce a clean reputation in the eyes of people. Good women can be misunderstood. Sincere women can be criticized. Gentle women can be accused. Faithful women can be abandoned. But none of that changes what Allah knows. Stop exhausting yourself trying to become innocent inside the imagination of someone committed to misunderstanding you. You may never receive the correction you hoped for. They may never return and say, "We were wrong about you." But your healing cannot remain dependent upon their honesty. There is a higher kind of peace. It is the peace of knowing that Allah saw the full story. When you reach that peace, you stop begging people to recognize your heart. You continue doing good, but you no longer perform goodness for recognition. You remain compassionate, but you no longer destroy yourself, proving that you are compassionate. You become careful with your intentions because you understand that being known by Allah is greater than being correctly interpreted by everyone. Perhaps this test was never sent to ruin your name. Perhaps it was sent to release your soul from the need to have your name protected by people. Too, Allah may empty your hands to break your fear of losing. Some women are not trapped by what they possess. They are trapped by what they are terrified of losing. A relationship, a marriage proposal, a friendship, a position, a reputation, a certain future, the hope of being chosen, the dream of becoming a mother, the expectation of being married by a particular age, the need to keep the family together even when everyone is depending upon her silence. She may know something is harming her, but the fear of losing it feels more frightening than the pain of keeping it. So she holds tighter. She overlooks disrespect. She reduces her standards. She ignores the heaviness in her heart. She calls anxiety love. She calls emotional dependence loyalty. She calls self-abandonment patience. She keeps asking Allah to preserve what is slowly destroying her because she cannot imagine herself without it. Then the strange test begins. The thing she feared losing starts slipping away. The person becomes distant. The plan becomes impossible. The door closes despite every effort. The future she rehearsed in her mind begins disappearing. She feels as though her hands are being emptied against her will. But an empty hand is not always a sign of divine anger. Sometimes Allah empties your hand because you would never release what your heart had turned into an idol of emotional security. My dear sister, attachment becomes dangerous when you begin believing that your life cannot continue without a created thing. Love is not wrong. Wanting marriage is not wrong. Wanting companionship, stability, children's success, and belonging is not wrong. But when the thought of losing something makes you willing to lose your dignity, your peace, your obedience, or your identity, the blessing has begun occupying a place in your heart it was never meant to occupy. Allah may then allow you to experience the very loss you were afraid of, not because He wants you empty forever, because He wants you to discover that you can survive with Him what you thought would destroy you without that person. At first, you will not feel strong. You may wake up reaching for a life that no longer exists. You may replay conversations. You may question your worth. You may wonder why another woman received what you prayed for. You may feel embarrassed because people knew what you hoped would happen. But slowly, something begins changing. You learn how to sleep without waiting for a message. You learn how to make decisions without asking whether someone will approve. You learn that loneliness is painful, but losing yourself is more painful. You learn that a closed door can wound you and protect you at the same time. You learn that your heart can break without your faith being destroyed. And perhaps the greatest discovery is this: you were not weak because you loved. You became weak only when you believed that being loved by that person was the source of your value. The loss reveals the difference. There are women who keep people in their lives because they are afraid of beginning again. But beginning again with dignity is better than continuing with humiliation. There are women who remain emotionally imprisoned by memories because memories feel safer than uncertainty. But the past cannot become your permanent home. There are women who think that losing one possibility means losing every possibility. But Allah is not limited to the door you saw. He is not limited to the person you chose. He is not limited to the timeline you created. He is not limited by your age, your history, your mistakes, your family circumstances, or the opinions of people who decided your best days were behind you. What leaves your hand does not leave the knowledge of Allah. What misses you was never beyond His control. And what is written for you does not require you to crawl, compete, manipulate, or abandon yourself. Sometimes the elevation of a woman begins when Allah teaches her to say, "I wanted it deeply, but I will not worship my desire for it." That sentence changes everything. It does not mean she no longer feels pain. It means pain is no longer her master. She may still grieve, but she no longer bargains away her soul. She may still miss someone, but she does not return to what dishonored her. She may still desire the blessing, but she stops accusing Allah because it has not arrived according to her schedule. Your empty hands may feel frightening today, but empty hands can be raised in prayer. Empty hands can receive something new. Empty hands are no longer chained to what they were desperately gripping. Perhaps Allah is not teaching you how to live without love. Perhaps He is teaching you how to stop confusing love with captivity. 3. Your softest heart may be tested through the hardest betrayal. There is a particular kind of pain that often reaches women with tender hearts. It is the pain of discovering that your goodness did not make another person good to you. You were honest, but they deceived you. You were loyal, but they replaced you. You protected their weaknesses, but they exposed yours. You spoke well of them in rooms where they spoke carelessly about you. You gave them access to the most vulnerable parts of your heart, believing they would handle that access with responsibility. Instead, they used what they knew to wound you precisely where it would hurt the most. Betrayal can make a woman question everything. She does not only question the person, she questions her own judgment. How did I not see it? Why did I trust them? Was I foolish? Was any of it real? Will everyone eventually do the same thing? This is where betrayal becomes more dangerous than the event itself. The event wounds your heart, but the interpretation can change your character. A soft woman can become suspicious of everyone. A generous woman can become emotionally unavailable. A forgiving woman can begin believing that mercy is weakness. A sincere woman can decide never to be vulnerable again. And the person who betrayed her may continue with life while she carries the consequences into every future relationship. My dear sister, do not allow someone else's lack of character to rewrite your understanding of your own goodness. Your sincerity was not stupidity. Your loyalty was not a mistake. Your ability to see potential in people was not a defect. The lesson is not that you should become heartless. The lesson is that a soft heart still needs wise boundaries. Mercy without discernment can become self-destruction. Forgiveness without change can become permission. Patience without limits can become participation in your own harm. You can forgive someone and still remove their access. You can wish them well and refuse to return. You can release hatred without reopening the same door. You can stop seeking revenge while still allowing consequences to exist. Some women confuse spiritual maturity with endless tolerance. They think being righteous means allowing people to repeatedly disrespect them. They believe setting a boundary is harsh. They fear that saying no will make them unkind. But Allah did not give you dignity so that you could repeatedly place it beneath someone's feet and call that humility. Humility is lowering yourself before Allah. Humiliation is allowing creation to convince you that you have no worth. These are not the same. Perhaps Allah allowed the betrayal to reveal a pattern you kept refusing to see. Perhaps you were listening to promises while ignoring behavior. Perhaps you kept falling in love with potential while suffering from reality. Perhaps you believed that if you loved them correctly, you could heal what they refused to confront within themselves. But you are not responsible for rescuing an adult from the consequences of their own choices. You can support someone. You can advise someone. You can pray for someone. But you cannot force honesty into a heart committed to deception. You cannot love someone into accountability when they benefit from avoiding it. You cannot sacrifice enough to make an ungrateful person become grateful. The betrayal may be painful, but it can also become revelation. It reveals where you abandoned your intuition. It reveals which warnings you ignored because you wanted the relationship to work. It reveals whether your identity had become dependent upon being needed. It reveals the difference between someone loving you and someone loving what you did for them. And once you see clearly, do not beg Allah to return you to blindness. A betrayed woman often asks for closure, but sometimes closure is not another conversation. Closure is accepting what the behavior already said. Closure is understanding that the apology you deserve may never come. Closure is refusing to spend another year waiting for someone to become the person they pretended to be at the beginning. Closure is placing the unanswered questions with Allah and choosing not to build your future inside them. Do not become cruel because someone abused your kindness. Become wiser. Do not punish innocent people for what a guilty person did. Heal slowly. Observe carefully. Trust responsibly. And remember that losing someone who betrayed your trust is not the same as losing your capacity to be loved. The wound may have entered through your softness, but Allah can transform that softness into strength without turning it into stone. That may be the elevation hidden inside the betrayal. You are not being trained to hate people. You are being trained to stop handing sacred access to people who have not shown sacred responsibility. For Allah may hide you while lesser voices are being celebrated. There are seasons when a woman knows she has something valuable within her, yet no one seems to recognize it. She has ideas, but no platform. She has wisdom, but people speak over her. She has talent, but opportunities continue going elsewhere. She works sincerely, but someone with less effort receives more attention. She watches women who appear less prepared move forward while her own path remains strangely quiet. This can happen in work, marriage, family, education, service, creativity, and even in religious spaces. She begins asking questions she is ashamed to admit. Why am I being overlooked? Why does everyone else seem visible? Why do I keep supporting other people's success while no one notices what I carry? Did I misunderstand my own potential? Being hidden can feel like rejection because the world has trained us to measure value through visibility. If people notice you, you matter. If people applaud you, you are succeeding. If your name is mentioned, your work is meaningful. But Allah does not measure significance through noise. Some of the deepest transformations happen in places where no one is watching. A seed is not publicly celebrated while it is splitting beneath the soil. It is surrounded by darkness. Its old form is breaking. Nothing above the ground announces what is happening. To someone looking only at the surface, the field appears empty. But beneath the surface, a future is being prepared. My dear sister, perhaps you are not being ignored. Perhaps you are being rooted. Public recognition before inner preparation can become a punishment disguised as success. Attention can magnify wounds you have not healed. Praise can strengthen an ego you have not learned to control. Opportunity can expose weaknesses. Privacy was meant to repair. Allah may love you too much to let the world applaud a version of you that would become addicted to applause. So He hides you. He teaches you to work without being seen. He teaches you to remain disciplined without compliments. He teaches you to build character when no one is impressed. He allows others to move ahead so that you can confront the jealousy, comparison, and insecurity you did not know were living within you. This does not mean you are evil for feeling envy. It means you are human. But envy becomes dangerous when another woman's blessing begins feeling like evidence of your rejection. Her marriage does not mean yours has been forgotten. Her success does not reduce what is available to you. Her beauty does not remove yours. Her opportunity does not exhaust the generosity of Allah. Her timing is not a verdict on your timing. You do not know what her blessing costs her. You do not know what private prayers brought her there. You do not know what test may be hidden inside the very life you are comparing yourself to. Comparison gives you edited information and then asks you to judge your entire existence by it. The hidden season teaches you to stop doing that. It teaches you that you can admire another woman without erasing yourself. You can celebrate her without believing you have been abandoned. You can learn from her without becoming a copy of her. You can wait without becoming bitter. Being hidden may also be protecting your intention. Would you continue if no one praised you? Would you serve if your name were never mentioned? Would you create if the numbers remained small? Would you pursue knowledge if no one called you intelligent? Would you dress with dignity if no one complimented you? Would you remain faithful if obedience did not immediately improve your circumstances? These questions are uncomfortable because they expose whether you want the purpose or only the recognition attached to the purpose. Sometimes Allah delays the audience because He is purifying the message. Sometimes He delays leadership because He is building compassion. Sometimes He delays marriage because He is strengthening identity. Sometimes He delays influence because He is teaching you how not to be controlled by people's opinions. Sometimes He delays the blessing because your current self would use it to prove something to people who hurt you. But your blessing was not created to become revenge. Your elevation is not supposed to be a performance directed at those who overlooked you. You do not need to become successful so they will regret losing you. You do not need to become beautiful so someone will regret rejecting you. You do not need to become powerful so those who dismissed you will feel small. That still leaves your life emotionally centered around them. True elevation is when their reaction is no longer the reason you rise. You rise because Allah gave you responsibility. You grow because your soul deserves discipline. You heal because you are tired of carrying wounds into innocent places. You become excellent because excellence is an act of gratitude. Continue building in the hidden place. Learn what you need to learn. Repair what needs to be repaired. Let your roots deepen. When visibility arrives, you will need roots more than excitement. And when Allah finally brings you forward, you may realize that the quiet years were not empty. They were the years that made you capable of carrying what you once only dreamed of receiving. 5. The door you begged for may close to save the woman you are becoming. A closed door hurts differently when you prayed for it with your whole heart. You were not asking carelessly. You believed the opportunity was good. You imagined the marriage, the home, the career, the reconciliation, the acceptance, or the future that would follow. You prayed at night. You tried to become better. You waited patiently. You looked for signs of hope. Then the door closed. Not gently, not gradually. It closed in a way that left no room for the future you had rehearsed. Perhaps another person was chosen. Perhaps the relationship ended without the explanation you deserved. Perhaps the offer disappeared. Perhaps your body did not cooperate with your plans. Perhaps family circumstances changed everything. Perhaps years passed and the answer still did not arrive. A woman can accept many things publicly while privately carrying a graveyard of unlived futures. She smiles when others announce the blessing she once begged for. She says the correct words. She congratulates them sincerely. Then she returns to her room and wonders why her own prayers seem to have been delayed. My dear sister, unanswered prayer does not mean unheard prayer. A closed door does not mean Allah was absent from the hallway. You only saw what you hoped would happen after the door opened. Allah knew everything waiting beyond it. You saw affection. He saw character. You saw potential. He saw the future pattern. You saw the wedding. He saw the private life. You saw the position. He saw what it might do to your faith, your peace, your health, and your identity. You saw the immediate relief. He saw the long-term cost. This does not make the pain imaginary. Protection can still hurt. Medicine can still taste bitter. Being redirected can still feel like being rejected. Faith does not require you to pretend that disappointment feels beautiful. You can cry. You can grieve. You can admit that you wanted it. You can ask Allah to strengthen you. But do not turn one closed door into a conclusion about your entire worth. A rejected proposal does not mean you are unworthy of love. A failed marriage does not mean your life is over. Difficulty conceiving does not reduce your womanhood. A career delay does not mean you lack intelligence. Being overlooked does not mean you carry nothing valuable. The door speaks only about the door. It does not have the authority to define the whole house. Sometimes a woman becomes so focused on what did not open that she stops noticing what Allah is opening within her. The closed relationship opens discernment. The closed opportunity opens discipline. The closed plan opens prayer. The closed timeline opens surrender. The closed chapter opens a version of her that no longer bases her value on being selected by people. There are doors you would reopen today if you could. But perhaps the woman you will become would thank Allah that you never received the key. Think of the times you once begged for something that you now recognize would have harmed you. At the time, you could not imagine a better outcome. Your knowledge was limited to desire. Allah's knowledge included consequences. Why assume that the same wisdom is not operating now? The difficulty is that divine protection does not always introduce itself. It may arrive dressed as silence. It may look like delay. It may feel like humiliation. It may leave you explaining to people why something did not work. But years later, you may see what you could not see from the ground. You may meet the person you almost became. You may recognize the environment you almost entered. You may witness the character that was hidden from you. You may realize that Allah was not standing between you and happiness. He was standing between you and a pain that would have reached much deeper than disappointment. And sometimes the door closes not because something evil was behind it, but because you were not meant to enter it as the woman you were. Perhaps you needed stronger boundaries. Perhaps you needed to heal your fear of abandonment. Perhaps you needed financial wisdom. Perhaps you needed to understand your faith beyond emotion. Perhaps you needed to stop confusing attention with commitment. Perhaps the blessing itself is still written, but the version of you who will carry it is still being formed. Do not spend the waiting season attacking yourself. Prepare, learn, heal. Become trustworthy with the life you are requesting. And stop knocking until your hands bleed on a door Allah has clearly closed. There is no dignity in endlessly chasing what repeatedly communicates that it does not have room for you. Turn toward Allah. Walk forward. The road may not reveal itself immediately, but movement with trust is better than paralysis at a locked entrance. The closed door may not be the end of your story. It may be the moment your real story was protected. 6. The delay may be teaching you to receive without chasing. Many women know how to give. They know how to sacrifice, organize, encourage, fix, remember, and carry. But they do not know how to receive. When someone offers support, they feel guilty. When life becomes peaceful, they become suspicious. When something good arrives without struggle, they wonder whether they deserve it. They are familiar with exhaustion. They are unfamiliar with ease. So they chase. They chase people for clarity. They chase opportunities for validation. They chase relationships for reassurance. They chase timelines because waiting makes them feel powerless. But constant chasing can make a woman forget that what is written for her does not require the destruction of her dignity. There is a difference between effort and desperation. Effort is responsible. Desperation becomes willing to compromise everything for a particular outcome. Effort sends the application. Desperation believes one rejection has ruined the future. Effort communicates interest. Desperation repeatedly pursues someone who has shown indifference. Effort works on the marriage. Desperation accepts abuse because being alone feels unbearable. Effort asks for help. Desperation tries to force a door that Allah is not opening. The delay may be exposing how much of your life has been driven by fear. Fear that time is running out. Fear that everyone else is moving ahead. Fear that you will be forgotten. Fear that no one else will come. Fear that this is your only opportunity. Fear speaks in urgency. It says, take whatever appears because nothing better may arrive. Faith says, move wisely, but do not treat scarcity as though Allah's generosity has ended. My dear sister, receiving requires a different kind of strength. It requires you to believe you do not have to earn love by suffering for it. You do not have to become indispensable before someone values you. You do not have to hide your needs to be considered easy to love. You do not have to compete with every woman in the room. You do not have to perform perfection to deserve respect. The delay may be teaching you how to recognize healthy things when they arrive. A woman accustomed to chaos may mistake peace for boredom. A woman accustomed to inconsistency may mistake anxiety for chemistry. A woman accustomed to earning affection may distrust anyone who gives it freely. A woman accustomed to carrying everyone may feel useless when no one needs rescuing. So Allah may slow the journey while He repairs your ability to receive without fear. This season is not asking you to become passive. Continue working, continue praying, continue improving. But stop approaching life as though everything good must be hunted down before it escapes you. Some blessings arrive when you are no longer negotiating against yourself. Some doors open when you have learned not to crawl through them. Some relationships become possible when you no longer need them to repair your identity. Some forms of provision arrive when you have developed the discipline not to waste them. The delay can be mercy because receiving too early may cause you to misuse what you prayed for. You asked for love, but perhaps you first needed to learn what love is not. You asked for influence, but perhaps you first needed to survive being invisible. You asked for wealth, but perhaps you first needed to develop restraint. You asked for leadership, but perhaps you first needed to experience what careless leadership does to vulnerable people. You asked for peace, but perhaps you first needed to stop inviting chaos back into your life. Do not call every slow process a denial. Some things grow slowly because their roots must carry greater weight. Let the delay teach you composure. Let it teach you not to panic when you do not have immediate answers. Let it teach you that your life is not late simply because it does not resemble another woman's life. There is no single timeline for womanhood. Marriage is not graduation from incompleteness. Motherhood is not the only evidence of feminine value. Professional success is not the only proof of intelligence. Visibility is not the only form of impact. Your life is not a failed copy of someone else's journey. It is a responsibility written with its own tests, gifts, timing, and opportunities for nearness to Allah. Stop insulting your chapter because it does not look like hers. You may be closer than you realize, but closeness will not benefit you if panic convinces you to accept a substitute. What is truly meant for you will not require you to become someone you hate in order to hold it. 7. When the test ends, you will not return as the woman who entered it. Every deep test asks for something from you, not merely your patience. It asks for an old identity. The woman who entered the test may have believed that being needed made her valuable. She may have confused silence with peace. She may have accepted disrespect because she feared loneliness. She may have attached her worth to marriage, beauty, productivity, motherhood, achievement, or approval. She may have been sincere but unprotected, generous but exhausted, faithful but constantly afraid. Then the test began removing the structures around her. People left, plans changed, her image of the future cracked. She was forced to meet the parts of herself she had avoided by staying busy with everyone else. At first, she asked only for the test to end, but eventually, a deeper prayer began forming. Allah, do not let me leave this season unchanged. That is the turning point, because the greatest loss is not experiencing pain. The greatest loss is experiencing pain and learning nothing from it. Do not rush to become the old you again. The old you may have been the one who kept accepting what the new you must refuse. The old you may have apologized for having needs. The old you may have confused being agreeable with being righteous. The old you may have returned every time someone offered temporary affection. The old you may have spent years trying to prove her worth to people who benefited from her insecurity. Let that version rest.